Good afternoon. You're listening to Cannabis Corner on WNHHLP 103.5 FM, broadcasting live from downtown New Haven. We are streaming live on TuneIn Radio and NewHavenIndependent.org. We're also streaming live video on Facebook and YouTube. Just go to your Facebook page and look us up, or hit see first to see and hear all the great programs we have here on WNHHLP. And Cannabis Corner is also streaming live on the Greenhaven Media Facebook page and the ProCannabisMedia.com. Welcome, everybody. It is Monday, January 5th, the first show of the year. Welcome to Cannabis Corner. I'm your host, Joe LaChance, Joe the Weed Guy, and I, of course, am joined here by the one and only Uncle Lou, Farmer Lou. How are you today?
Hey, how's it going, good brother? Doing all right. Welcome back for the new year. The show's getting going. Excited for all you guys, everybody here. It's been a mighty adventure. We're starting a new year, a little snow on the ground, but we'll look at it as a positive thing. I do want to give a shout out. We got to go. Kieber was honored as Businesswoman of the Year for the Southern Connecticut Black Chamber of Commerce. And we got to go out there. I stopped in as a guest of Deborah Kavanaugh, the founder and president of the Southern Connecticut Black Chamber of Commerce, And I just
right.
Yep, I just wanted to give that organization and Deborah a huge shout out for always being around. She's also one of the founders of the Connecticut Cannabis Chamber of Commerce and a lesser known person who's always behind the scenes. So Deborah's a sweet, sweet, sweet woman who's got some really great organizations doing some really cool things,
Yeah, and Kibra was honored, and I want to say, Kibra is a friend of the show.
100%.
Always will be. I invited her to come
host.
on today at some point. I don't know if she's going to show up or not, but she said she had a meeting. But she asked me, and I do want to do this. She is doing a contest for the new year.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's free flower for a year.
Yeah.
So she's got this contest. It's running until January the 20th. You can enter till. All you have to do is follow Lit New Haven.
There you go.
Comment hashtag Lit New Year in the comments, and then tag 2 friends, and then repost it on your story, and you get entered into the contest.
So it sounds like the very simple way of entering is doing exactly how most of these online giveaways are going. So find her on her socials, definitely Instagram, Facebook, right, Joe? Tell me if
at Lit New Haven, yes, at Lit New Haven. This is mostly an IG thing. I think I've seen it on Facebook a little bit, mostly an IG.
Yeah.
At Lit New Haven. And you can follow Kibra on that. She's, I'm going to say, right now, out of all the legal dispensaries,
100%.
That is the only, especially now, the only dispensary that I support.
100%. And you know that we have supported, and that she has supported us very much so. She's kept 100% to her word and what she's doing for her community. And I always say she's a great woman doing her thing. And this is a pretty cool contest for your list. Hey, sorry.
Oops.
I got the dog. She barked.
That's all right. We'll get her on the show sometime.
I do a lot of walking.
Well, I hear you, man. With those dogs, you got to walk them.
Yep.
Yeah, so I also wanted to do that. Follow at Lit New Haven. Enter the contest. You win free flower for a year. There's more details when you go to the site. I don't know exactly what the free flower means. I lost Lou. I don't know where he went. But also, I wanted to give a shout out, of course, to our sponsor this week, Gabe, Metatron Homegrown. Gabe is doing, he has 2 locations, 626 East Main Street in Meriden, and then 185 Boston Post Road in Orange. And so he's got those 2 locations. He does classes. every Saturday down there in Orange. And this Saturday, he has a special event going on. It is the it is a swap meet. So what it is, it's going to be indoors too. He's got a whole nice space over there in Orange. It's a swap meet. It's for growers mostly to bring their old used equipment or equipment they want to get rid of, and to sell them to other people. And you can call Gabe, talk to Gabe down there at Metatron. You can follow him on social media, hit him up on social media, and you can go down there. That'll be Saturday all day. Hang out down there with Gabe and Metatron. I will be there. There will be food. There will be vendors. There will be all kinds of things going on down there. I know our good buddy from One Hit Wonder will be there. There's a couple things going on, and I also invited Gabe to come on towards the end of the show to talk to us a little bit about what kind of equipment will be coming on, and things like that. But it should be a good time. I'm looking forward to it. Um, and Gabe's a good guy.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, he is. And it should be fun. So I don't know, Lou, if you got any old grow equipment that you want to get rid of.
It's
I
a great
wish
opportunity.
I wish
It's a
I
nice.
did. I could use some money right now.
I know
Well,
that
the
feeling.
holidays always drain people. I realize,
Yeah,
and so
and
you got to re up at the beginning.
yeah, and there's a lot of people that are had a lot hard time just going through the holidays, and there's some good community organizations. I'm excited about our guest today. To hear about a couple bunch of the stuff he's got going on.
Yeah, well,
But it's
Raphael's always been a good, like a real community based guy.
community driven 100%. He's a great guy doing some really cool stuff, and always with the best intentions of others in the community. So, great family man.
Yeah, very active out in the Waterbury area, which, believe me, and you and I both know that area needs definitely a lot of community support. It's been an area that, at one point in our history was actually very thriving.
Yeah,
There's this
it's
very industrial. They call it the Brass City because they made
yeah.
a lot of brass fixtures there, which obviously back then was good money. But
It's the plight of the manufacturing towns.
there were
Because
quite a few
Connecticut,
out that way.
yeah, Connecticut had a nice manufacturing hub in that space. You know what I mean? And they had a lot of cities that were big into manufacturing. The state tried to be, it was a thriving Northeast manufacturing place.
Well, when I was growing up, I always remember driving on the highway on 95, and there was that big steel company in Bridgeport.
There you go.
This might be before your time. I don't know.
No, no, there's
They
all
had a giant
reminiscences of it.
sign. It said Fairletto Steel,
Yeah,
and they had a steel mill out there.
yeah. Well,
So
Bridgeport had a lot of that, man, because of the waterways.
there was a harbor. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's barely used as a harbor anymore.
yeah.
You know.
A lot of those buildings are demolished, but we see it all through Connecticut. Some really cool towns that don't have very much, and
But
going
used to have a
on.
lot.
They
Like we
used
look in
to
the
exactly.
valley, Ansonia, Derby. There used to be the rubber factory. There used to be factories out there that could support a whole community,
Yeah,
and no more.
yeah. And that goes ways of everything, all cycles, because now we're even looking at cannabis the same way. We're looking at agriculture the same way. We're seeing communities rise and fall. A
Yeah,
lot of places are closing now, and they have been. And
yeah, no, absolutely. I guess it's progress at some point, but then again, at what cost? Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? Those communities, like I said, and you said, and we know, we live in Connecticut, we drive through them, we know how they are. Used to be thriving communities
yeah,
when there was manufacturing here. They took out the manufacturing, the communities are struggling, a lot of poverty, lack of jobs. things like that.
Those are big
And
employment centers, like those are big employment places. Same thing with agriculture, where
the farms, yeah. What happened to our whole tobacco industry that we used to have here in Connecticut?
that's right. The entire tobacco industry gone.
Gone, right? Because they moved down to Virginia or wherever they're doing it now, where it was cheaper.
And
You
there's
know,
still some, but it's not like it's a big industry in Connecticut anymore.
but
It
it
was,
used to be.
yeah, that's what brought a large amount of the Latino and Caribbean population, Puerto Rican, Jamaican, the I mean, the tobacco plantations in the 50s.
Yeah,
That's what brought a lot of people out this way, a lot of
yeah.
people settling out here because even to this day, with Connecticut, it just happens the way it is. Connecticut shade is a well liked tobacco product, so
Well, they use it for the outer wrappers, right? That's
yeah,
like the outer wrapper stuff. That's what you roll blunts with, right?
that's what we roll blunts with. That's what we would roll a blunt with.
You would think now
So
somebody would get smart and just start making blunt wraps up there.
that's it. And there's people that do, the people that grow the tobacco up there, they have their mass buyers already. They have their crop is pre-sold before it
Oh
even.
yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. They don't sell to the public. It's contracted.
Yeah, that's all contracted out.
Yeah, and only certain cigars use it. But
Yeah, certain cigars will use it, and they have it pre-sold. There's no market for an independent seller, and then it's got to get rolled. They're not rolling the inside with Connecticut leaf. They're just rolling the outside with
with the
Connecticut
Connecticut
leaf.
leaf, yeah.
So if there was a purveyor or somebody who was selling their own tobacco, there's probably who knows. I
Well,
see
we
them at the
know
debate.
Corey from Focus Seeds is selling
Yeah,
tobacco seeds. I grew tobacco
yeah,
this year, and Gabe grew tobacco this year.
yeah.
So it's not illegal to grow.
No, not at all.
What it comes down to is when you try to sell it,
Right.
then
There's got to be
that's
some
when you
licenses.
that's a forget it. But if you want to grow it for yourself and your friends and stuff like that, I'm sure it's the same as weed.
Yeah, you just want to
You
make
grow
sure you
it.
get a good thing because you don't want to have a moldy leaf or something like that. So,
Oh yeah, it
that's the
takes
whole
care.
idea.
I grew it
So
for
if you
fun
do
this
it
year.
right, yeah.
Maybe next year I'll do it a little more serious. But guess who's here? Our guest, a good
All
friend,
right.
Rafael Rosario, good friend of the show, good
How are you
friend of the
guys?
community. He's founder of Basement Ghost Media.
Basement
Also,
Ghost Media.
Basement Ghost Media is your rock, your solid that you've always been doing. But you've also got you were also the communications and development manager at the Connecticut Coalition and Homelessness. You've got the People's Place there. You've always got your fingers in a lot of different things. But one thing Lou and I were both talking, everything you do is community based. It's
That's
all
right.
about the community. You play with the government, but you only play with it for the benefit of the community. So
That's right. That's right. That's right. Do not be confused. Listen, I told folks we need to tear it down and start over, but
yeah,
we wanted to work from the inside, so this is what we got, right? Like this is the work that it takes if we want to do it the old school way. So this is what it works.
yeah. I mean, I don't. It's interesting. I don't know what the frontier holds now for this next. Because I just know our legislator, they're going to try and screw around with the cannabis regulation somehow. They're going to
Mm-hmm.
try and tweak it and do something to it because they just seem to feel like they have to do that every session. But I don't know how many more tweaks or how much more they can do to it to make it any worse than it already is, or even to make it better.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's a really good point. I mean, at this point, I was doing some research before the show, and obviously there's a big push for medical. There's a big push for more research. It's obviously a big push for monopoly and control, right? I
Yes,
think,
more corporate. Even I can sense that coming from the federal government. Even though we just had this big announcement and everything, everybody thinks that's a great thing. Let's get into that a little bit too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think I mean from the beginning, right? I think people are confused as to like what it is the what Trump signed. So it was an executive order for people to do the job that they were already doing. This stuff happened like under Biden,
Yeah, he signed
for
almost a similar thing, didn't he?
very similar, very similar. And there's processes that need to happen, right? Like the DEA needs to be the ones that make this decision. So there are a lot of things that need to happen before rescheduling even happens.
You're
Um, you
right.
know, and this goes to the bigger point. Like, if we're ever going to talk about complete removal, this is like step one of maybe more steps that could be another 5, 10 years down the road, unfortunately.
Oh yeah,
So for
absolutely.
folks who have been doing this work for a long time, you know, I don't want to say buckle up, but it's kind of like this shit's just gonna take a couple more years before we get there. You know what I
Well,
mean?
it does. Well, look where we're at now. Even let's say the first legal state was what in 2012, right? So
Mm-hmm.
here we are 13 years later. We have many more legal states on board. I think we're almost over the halfway point now. I'm not sure. I don't know the new
Mm-hmm.
count. But every state has its own way of doing it.
That's right.
We've seen because it started out there in Washington and Colorado. We've seen the difficulties that they've all encountered,
That's right.
um, and it almost seems like I don't know how to put this, but some sort of federal guidance might not be a bad thing. Do you understand what
Mm,
I'm saying?
I see that.
You know what I mean? Now, I'm not saying over, but we know they overreach. But at least some sort of guidance. Maybe this is the first step towards
Well,
that guidance.
Joe, and I like to think of this because new lessons we've learned as we've been able to work with the new group that we're working with over at the tribe. It's how interpretations of laws are made.
That's right.
Because as they put everything in, a big part of this session and this year is going to be interpreting the new federal laws
That's
for the
right.
state. You know,
That's right.
even how cannabis is being reclassified, not necessarily through because the executive order once again was an executive order to just do your job.
That's right.
Hey,
Right.
I'm telling you to do your
Literally.
job.
Beat it
You
up.
know, like, and it's a great. It was a political move. It
It was
was
definitely
that's what it was.
grandstanding for sure.
So
Yeah.
nothing comes out of it. Um, Nothing changed. It was
No.
just hey. So that's where the conversation that everybody's people, and then it gives an opportunity for all the cannabis folk to put a statement out. Then it gives an opportunity. You know what I mean? It's
That's right.
For us to debate it.
yeah. It opens up something like that. It didn't actually do anything for the plant. The Department of Consumer
No.
Protection now is still dealing with how hemp is going to be regulated and which are being reclassified because they have to worry about the inputs in the cannabis world here. Does that reinvigorate the one or two farmers left in the space? And that's if they had the large investments of extraction equipment already, or are they going to look to capitalize on a very small market and have to spend a lot of money on new equipment? Or, you
Right.
know what I mean?
Right.
So the state now has to still interpret that and how they even are going to regulate that as well,
That's right.
because just the state has really interesting hemp
Well,
cannabis
yeah,
laws. You
Yeah.
know what I
that's
mean?
that's something I did want to bring up. We know that in one of the concessions in the government shutdown to reopen the government was a clause that they put in there, basically banning all hemp derived THC, any synthetically
Right.
derived THC compounds to be sold out in the regular market,
Right.
unlicensed, right?
Right.
Do you think the two moves had one thing to do with the other? Like, did they knew they were going to do this rescheduling move, so they preemptively put that in there? Or, and I've
Yeah.
heard two differing sides. Like, a that new if they do when they do reschedule, it makes that whole thing moot. Like it doesn't
Hmm.
matter now, the whole hemp thing. Or the two were done kind of in conjunction with each other as almost a plan to put all the THC into the one area. You know, they don't want that hemp derived THC. They want. I mean,
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, when you think about like, like, so the patent for CBD is owned by the United States government, right?
Yep.
Um, and right now, the only CBD product that's covered under like certain insurances is Epidiolex, which is for severe seizures.
has
The
to be
success,
prescribed, right?
that's right. And that particular brand and product has had such success that there's been a move to see what other derivatives and other chemical compounds that we can naturally put under a brand like an Epidiolex and then sell to the masses. Obviously, again, this is step one, right? Rescheduling it, FDA approval, right? And all these brands with big money, especially in a state like Connecticut, right, where big pharma lives, um, having brands to consumers really quickly is, that can happen really quickly here in our state. I think
I
Yeah,
that
agree.
because yeah, absolutely.
and I think there's another thing going on even with Venezuela, right? There is there is this shift of fear of we still have politicians in power who believe that cannabis is a gateway drug, and
Right.
Uh-huh.
we have people who believe that cannabis is still dangerous. So there is a move to say, well, cannabis is good, but we need to do it medically first. And that has been the shift and the conversation around that. So banning these hemp products were to protect big brands like Epidiolex and other things that could possibly come out from, the legacy market that could actually help people. So
But
yeah, there is a big push to control. There is a big fear factor from older folks who are still in power to say like, yeah, we want joints, but we want our joints tested for fentanyl, right? And so this big crackdown with Venezuela and this reemergence of the drug war is really popular. At the same
yes,
time, we're doing historic things like rescheduling cannabis from Schedule 1 to 3. So
Right.
it's very interesting, and it's who knows who comes out on top, right? On the medical market, whether we'll see a resurgence of it. Maybe the medical market means you can get a prescription at CVS now versus having to go to your
Well,
local
now
dispensary. So
here's where the next part. Once you do this, let's say you do reschedule it and you put it in the researchers' hands and they start finding new drugs for it. Do
sure.
we get to the point where the only way you can get it is through a prescription? You know, because I hear him
Mm,
saying, "Oh, we want insurance to cover it," right? And this is what he said in his announcement. Yeah, it's going to make it so we can have insurance cover for people. I mean, you're right about the old school because even he said, "Well, I'm not going to use it, but I know there are people who need it.
right,
I'm not
right.
using it, but I know people need it." So, but um, yeah,
That's a
that
real thing.
scares me. That scares me. Getting
It's
insurance and big pharma involved because who's going to be doing the research? Who's going to get the contracts to
sure.
do the research? It's going to be big pharma or the big colleges that are under, the thumb of
at
them.
least in Connecticut, you can expect that Yale will have a study.
Oh
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
Yeah, and maybe UConn, definitely
UConn,
UConn. They have
you
a nice
know,
little growth facility up there.
there's a lot of the universities will definitely go at it. So Connecticut as a state will definitely work at something if it becomes that way. They're not gonna UConn's not gonna stay, oh well, if the state's not gonna let me do it, the federal government will let me do it. If Yale does whatever Yale wants and ask anybody in the
Right.
city of New
Right.
Haven,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Yale
like
owns New Haven. Let's be real.
Right.
and this is where we're broadcasting for, so
Yeah,
don't
all
take
you
over
people
our
at
building.
Yale, don't worry about
Don't take over our building, guys. Because
Yeah.
that's how Yale does it. They do the real estate game. They will buy your building, and that's the end of it. No more taxes to the town. No, it's tough.
Yeah, for all
It's
we know, they already own our building. I don't know, but
I think
I-
here's the good news though. Here's the amazing thing about politics and society and the way things go. I think the good news is, um, generationally, these folks will be gone, right? Like these folks will pass on, maybe some sooner than later, right?
hmm
Um, and with that comes regime change, and sometimes that regime change comes faster and sooner than we are traditionally expected to wait. I think the past Trump, past events, um, presidency, I can see a new regime coming in and changing those things, right? I think of medical marijuana, right, or this FDA approved marijuana, and I think about how does the current recreational market coexist with it, right? Like, could there be a market that exists? I don't know. I think there'll be specialized products, maybe like RSO you'll get at CVS, and you'll be able to get your joints at your regular schmegler dispensaries. I think for this, what I'd like to talk to you guys about is what do you guys think about the current state of Connecticut's industry, and is there hope in how we change it, or do we just stay the course in our current industry? So as we move forward, I think about yes, I think we'll have a president in the future that won't just deschedule cannabis, but actually let people go from jail for cannabis.
hmm
Um, and also, I think about at the same time, it's like, will there be a rec market the way we see it today, or will be able to buy like, will there be like liquor stores to cannabis like we have now? I don't know yet. I'm trying to envision what 5 years down the road looks like. So I'd like to pick your brains on what you guys think 5 years down the road looks like for cannabis, not just
Well,
in the state, but in the country too.
so that's a great
that's a
question,
great
and I
question.
like talking about that because so Joe has the experience being out on the West Coast when it was
Sure.
initially
The Wild
medicinalized.
West.
You get what I mean? So
The
Joe,
Wild
when you were
West.
out there, this is where we'll pick your brain as well. Joe, while you were out there, cannabis was becoming legal, and dispensaries, as we learned about them, not as we experienced, because we experienced the
Mhm.
Connecticut and Massachusetts
Sure.
dispensary cycles, but you got to experience that Colorado, California kind of style
Well,
earlier.
yeah. When I
You
was
know,
out there in the 90s, when it just became legal, so,
Mm.
or medically legal. First of all, it was the Wild West. The getting a card was if you had $50, you got a card,
hmm
basically. And they just had these little clinics set up, and you would just go in and get your card.
Sure.
But the dispensaries themselves were set up very old school. There wasn't really any testing done back then. Okay,
Okay.
that's the first thing you got to know. Second thing, there was a huge variety, and it was usually went high, medium, low. That's how they did it.
Okay.
And then it would be separated sativa, indica, hybrid. So, but everything was in jars, and you could look at it. So when you would look at the menu and you'd make your pick, they would bring the jar over to you. They had the big magnifying glass. You could look at it. You could pick a bud out with the tweezers and smell it and look at it.
Mm.
Um, and then they would weigh it out right in front of you. And, obviously they were looking for tips, so they'd throw you a little extra. It was very, very homey, Wild West. Now, the thing about it then, also, again, like I said, no testing. There was no cartridges or concentrates. It was just really
Right.
edibles and flour. They weren't even really doing pre rolls. Um, but the thing about it when was back in the day, they used to have lounges in the back of the dispensary. So
Mm.
you could literally buy your flower and then go into the back room and smoke your flower and enjoy it, with other customers and other people in there if you wanted to. And that was a cool time. I used to do that often. Like I would just to go meet people and hang out and
Sounds like a
talk.
good time.
Yeah, and they would also sell clones in there. They were selling
Mm.
clone because home grow was part of the deal. They were selling clones in the dispensaries back then. Now it's changed obviously now. But yeah, So that's how it started. Where do I see it going in the next 5 years? Ooh, I don't know. Can we think of any example of a substance that is both used for medical and recreational purposes?
Mm,
I don't know how that works. Like, how do you
right.
say something
Well,
is yeah, yeah, go ahead.
we'll take an idea. I've always thought that it's going to end up being separated in two classifications: over the
Okay.
counter and prescription.
Okay.
Okay.
And then that will, because now we're talking about some type of federal regulation, and I think they're going to let. I would believe they would classify it as low cannabis or low THC cannabis and medium. Kind of how they're starting to regulate it now in the
Hmm.
hemp side
Hmm.
of it.
That makes sense.
And then it would be, this dispensary model in Connecticut. It would probably be the current dispensary model. Would be your low cannabis option, and then our hybrid or medical models with the pharmacists would be the full scale medical. And I think that Connecticut, because of, and not to say we did anything right, but Connecticut always erred on the side that cannabis will be put into the Schedule 3 pharmacist kind of model,
Right.
being one of the only
Right.
states that did that, and the first of
Yeah,
the
we
only.
did. Yeah, we're the one of the only states that was Scheduled 2 early.
Right. So, we worked at it through a pharmaceutical model for a while, and the rest of the country is going to. I 100% want to say I'm not toting that our model is good in any way or the best or
Right. Right.
like
Right.
the
Right. I
best
get.
that we can
I
say it was
understand.
the first.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? It was bad, is bad. I hate the model itself personally, having to work through it. It wasn't set up for an owner. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
with all of those opinions, the country is still going to say, well, Connecticut did it first, and for the longest, what's their example model like?
Right. Right.
And
Right.
Yeah.
that's been the story that those in the DCP have been saying for a long time as well. When they tote that the program is great, they're like, we're one of the first. We have the most
That had a true medical
SOPs.
model. Right, right,
Right.
right.
Right,
With the pharmacist and all that. Right.
right. So not good, bad, or indifferent, but they get to say that they had the large model and they have a lot of standard operating procedures that they can recommend. So now we start seeing models like Connecticut open up nationally
Right.
for the medical side of it. CVS puts a cannabis section in it. Walgreens put a cannabis section. All the private pharmacies do the same thing.
Right.
Our adult use dispensaries become the standard way of the adult use. We don't get a fun. Connecticut doesn't get a fun adult use. You know what I mean? Because I believe the low and medium THC they'll let regulate in this space. And then the higher test stuff, they're not going to let concentrates go to the regular places anymore. That will be like, okay, this is medical. Tinctures will be medicals, capsules will be medical. I think any of the things that take a little more processing would be considered medical, because even in the hemp world, realistically, when you looked at a hemp manufacturing license, the regulations were just as strong as whatever product type you were making. So if you were making a tincture in Connecticut, you're required to make any tinctures in the state. You're required to have like a
A
uh,
craft, like
a,
a license. Yeah, you have to have like a
the a
craft.
science license to
Yeah.
operate an H1, a clean room. You have to have a clean room if you're making lotions. You have to, and this isn't even the cannabis side of it or the hemp side of it. This was just, okay, well, if you're making, nutraceutical products, you have to be in a nutraceutical lab. So
Right.
they made sure to take those requirements and put them super high for people who are just trying to do the craft market. There is no craft in
Right.
manufacturing in Connecticut. So as may
Right.
and the DCP used to come to hemp manufacturers and cite them and say, "Oh no, you're not doing this right, because if you're making, coconut oil, you have to have a kitchen. Because if you're infusing coconut oil with distillate, you have to have a full
Right.
kitchen. You have to have a Board of Health certified kitchen, because now you're
Right.
doing this commercially." And those weren't things that they would
Right.
tell
Right.
people when you're like, "Oh, we're just trying to start this craft cottage industry and we got our licenses." And they start coming in with all the other licenses you're supposed to have and all the other regulations. And
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
Connecticut is great on over-regulating things. So now what happens? The rest of the country gets that same
Yeah.
model for just the adult use cannabis section of it. So,
Yeah, that's where we come into this gray area where we don't know where it's. Well,
and then there'll be a really interesting market because,
I think even better. I think
yep,
are we all frozen here?
I don't believe you and I are good. I believe right now.
I think Raphael, you're frozen.
That's okay. He'll pop in as he's talking. But then we're gonna have an interesting delivery because there has to be a delivery model just for medical accessibility at this point.
That's true. That
You
is true.
know, so now we have a medical. Now we have a delivery model that does what? What's that delivery model like? Because Connecticut's delivery model sucks. To keep it as frank as possible.
Yeah, it's not, again, like you say, it's not very conducive to the small businessman, the entrepreneur. Oh, Rob signed off. I guess he's going to come back on.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, there's a whole thing that would need to, and this is, I guess, part of his question is where do we see, and I asked this right at the beginning, how much more can they regulate it? And what could they change this year that's going to make a difference?
yeah.
That's going to make it any better or make it any worse? Honestly, I can't think of anything.
They're going to regulate things. They're going to find things that people want to do. There's still a lot of things that people are trying to make happen. We don't have our concentrates. I guarantee there'll be a rule about concentrates. I guarantee there'll be a rule about where terpenes are coming in from now. There's going to be a rule about THCA. There's going to be a
Oh, there he
rule
is.
about all of the new nuanced products. That are going to come in. There's going to be, I hope there comes something about sampling, sampling to employees, something, along those lines. How to use more live product versus, empty bottles and jars and anything
Right,
else.
right,
There's,
right.
what type of products are going to come from manufacturers because they're still being limited on the types of products they can create. So it's, it's an interesting thing. Does any of the agencies or anybody involved start to say, what, I'm going to get some local agriculture in with this? My gummies will be made with apple juice that comes from someplace or pear juice that comes from someplace, or if they got a local farmer that's growing watermelon in a certain area and they're making gummies out of all those extracts versus just the standard
That's
stuff.
true.
you
That's
know
true.
um,
Raphael is
that's right.
back.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No,
You
I
had to
was.
get in the car,
Yeah, well,
huh?
my Wi-Fi was acting crazy. One of the things I was gonna say too, and I missed a little bit of the conversation, is that Connecticut will also be first to insure these products, right? It'll be the first to, whether it's through FSA or whether it's through traditional means of your medical insurance covering these products. I think Connecticut might be the first to insure THC products because we're already built for that. We are the
Well, we
insurance
are
cap.
the insurance capital of the
We
world.
are
It's
the
funny.
insurance capital of the world.
We got
Um,
big pharma here, and
that's
we
right.
got the insurance capital of the world. A
Right.
lot of people don't know that Pfizer actually has a research lab in Yale.
Hmm.
They
That's right.
actually work with.
That's right. It's very real. It's very real, and it's
And
very
Purdue
close.
Pharmaceuticals.
That's
We
right.
know they're notorious. They got a little trouble, but you
That's
know,
right. That's
and
right.
and of course we've always been known for the insurance. But
Yeah, there's a hope for me. Like, and maybe you guys talked about this. I would love the cigar lounge model, right?
yeah, that was
Kind.
one thing I was going to bring up. Consumption lounges. I think that's definitely something we ought to work towards.
Yeah, and I love the model of, I think the one thing that's been missing in Connecticut more than anything else is not just the culture, but the community aspect of it, right? Like
Yeah.
folks are still trying to get together in community around cannabis, but it's always like outside of the current industry, right? It's always outside of what's here.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so I would love to see, I'm hoping folks from the Social Equity Council are paying attention. I would like to see some way of intertwining that culture that has been missing for such a long time, right? Um, there seems to be like, I get it. There's some folks who like the Walmart of weed, right? They want to go and buy their thing. But for a lot of us who are consumers or who have consumed in the past, it's always been done in community. There's just no safe place to do that here in Connecticut. I'd
It's
like to
getting,
see,
yeah, less and less safe. Yeah.
yeah, lot less safe. So I'd like to see consumption lounges so somewhere in the very near future here in
Well,
Connecticut.
yeah, and I think there's a model that can work, and
Well,
especially it could benefit both. Yeah, go ahead, Lou.
there's been so much fear mongering about it with the state as a whole, but I think
Sure,
that the cigar lounge model goes really well for it.
sure,
And it's that's a kudos to the cigar industry in Connecticut. The cigar
hmm,
lounges don't they have shown and proven that they don't attract very much issues. So they've
right,
disproven a lot of that because the cigar industry and cigar lounges faced that same scrutiny as they were trying to get open,
sure,
which wasn't able to be done with like the hookah lounges. The hookah
right,
lounges got
Yeah, they didn't
banned.
really accept them very
right,
well, did
right.
they? We had a few for a little while, but they didn't. Now I wonder what's the difference, really.
It's the business model style that they're
Mhm.
operating under. And that's what the tough part is. A lot of times cigar lounges are operating under private membership
That's
clubs,
right. That's right.
and you have to pay a membership. You know what I mean? So there's a model that can be followed to work well in all these industries. And a lot of people either choose to follow some of those models, which means it's different taxing, it's different licensures, it's different ways of
Right.
advertising your business, you know.
Right. Right.
There's a lot more of that. Like a cigar lounge can't necessarily do the same advertisement as a bar or something like
Right.
that
Right.
because so there's a lot of those nuanced things, and then it's what does the place look like?
Mm,
When we start to present them as private clubs,
Mm.
we talk culture, and then I don't want to say, well, what culture? You know what
right.
I mean?
Right.
Which part of the culture? Because
Sure.
I love, and I'll use one of the bigger names, Jerome Baker Glass. He's from
Mhm.
Guilford, Connecticut. His family's out in that. His family's from out there. He was the guy who made bongs for Cheech and Chong and got arrested with Chong.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
so
Yep.
bigger name, got really big in California and through the world just because he was the guy who was selling the bongs and
Right.
making the bongs across and selling them across state lines. So he did time with Cheech. The two of those guys, or Chong, the two of those guys did the time together for selling bongs. But he's from Connecticut. He's a local guy. He's known through that culture, the heady glass,
Right.
Right.
which is a little different. I come from a different culture. My culture is the more New Haven, New York, urban area. You know what I mean? Like the way we smoked was a little different than how people in the heady glass world smoke, and maybe my
Right.
idea of a culture, my cannabis culture, sit down, relax, lounge, isn't necessarily like a glass blowing studio, which I'm not knocking that because I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. No, I get that.
It's part of the things that I also enjoy. A bunch of heady glass, but I might have like record players with Wu Tang and like Biggie, and you know what I mean, all the
Right. Right.
classics that
Right.
we all love. And then there's some people who are bigger into like more of the Grateful Dead scene. And I
Sure.
self lack of knowledge or anything. I had no idea what the Deadhead scene was or what Grateful Dead style or jam band music was till I was like in my late 20s.
Right.
Because that just wasn't my culture. My mother listened to freestyle and my father listened to Spanish, and you know what I
Did your
mean?
mom
Like,
like Susie Q?
yeah, baby.
I
So
saw her live a few times. I
there you
remember
go.
we were
And
on
it's
tour
a
with
little
Susie
different.
Q.
It's
Yeah.
a
No,
little different.
I get that. I think it's important like I think what you said earlier, Lou. I think that as a state, we just need to be able to have that model, right? Like
Right.
our responsibility as like voters and citizens of the state is to say, hey, elected officials, like Lou should be able to open up his own consumption lounge, right? That follows this business model, and the
Right.
culture's up to Lou, right?
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
That's
and
right.
I think
That's where you can
And
like.
that opens it up. Now you'll have
that's right.
20 or 30 different individuals with the way they want to have their shop. And
That's
that
right.
creates a free market.
That's
And now
right.
this is now where Connecticut's going to get obviously pissy about it is it's either going to have to be a BYOC.
Right. Right.
They're not going to allow you to sell it there, but
No.
we can work something out. And this is where I think the delivery people ought to get behind this for deliveries to happen at this consumption lounge. So
That's
you
right.
could have a tablet, a little kiosk right in there. They could order their weed and have it delivered right to the consumption lounge. And there maybe be
And
two, three drop off points in a
and
night.
even just talking about it, the location, and this is just all of us talking as we've ran organizations and clubs and things like that. The model shouldn't be hard. It should be as simple as this is our registration fee, no in club sales, and then it regulated that way and then left out to where we can say, you know what, this is what we're hoping to do. We have a kiosk here with, 5 bookmarks of all the local deliveries. You can order from whoever you want. There's one drop off, and then you would set up drop off times, and you can set the whole
Right.
thing up as a private club where now these things are set and you're just now hosting events. You can have your lockers, which,
Right.
it's over 21. You have a locker, you have a membership, you have, local
Yep.
membership.
Yep.
And then the state would say, okay, no day memberships. Okay, no problem. We will do, anybody who comes in has
Only
to get it.
evenings. Yeah.
That's right.
You figure out what member, now you work as a business to figure out what business model you want to obtain with it, and it's just by following those rules. But you got to be able to say, hey, these are the set of rules if you're going to enforce no rules so
That's right.
much.
That's
That's
right.
right.
you
Hey,
know
hey, real quick, I wanted to bring Gabe on real quick. Gabe, let me ask you a question.
Yes,
You have a
sir.
nice space over there. Would you open a consumption lounge?
I would love to, but right now Orange only allows one, and they have that cigar shop at the moment.
Oh, we do have a cigar lounge in Orange. You're
Yes,
right. You're right. So,
the
real
city only
quick,
permitted one.
tell us a little bit about Raphael. I don't know if you have any extra grow equipment that you want to get rid of, but tell us a little bit about what you got going on this weekend, real quick. Maybe Raph will stop down.
Yeah, so Saturday we got a swap meet going on. I do have 2 more tables available for vendors. It's really $30. I give it back to you day of. It's just to hold your space. We have Brooklyn Bacon Boys coming. We have J&MM Creations. They make like hemp soap and different things like that. Grateful Paws is coming.
Oh, good.
Steve One Hit Wonder. And Steve Wilson. He does hash. He's going to show us how to do some hash. And there's a couple tables already set up for a bunch of used equipment that you can come down and get it. It's the people who bought new stuff for Christmas and they're getting rid of their old equipment. So it should be fairly cheap and you can get a good deal on maybe something used,
So now, if somebody has some equipment they want to get rid of,
Here,
what
let's do
they
it live on the air. Let's do it
Yeah.
live on the air.
Yeah.
So I have an entire storage unit of
Okay.
gross stuff, man. Like when I mean, I got HID, bigger old lights, couple small tents, and so
Yeah.
you've got a space where we can just put that there. Because
Yeah.
like I think, I got these things from one of those. I got them off of like a clearance website for $100. These old lights. So if somebody wanted to throw
Yeah.
$20 at a light, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, you're more than welcome, Lou, to come down, set up a spot. There's no charge, really. I just was getting $30 just to get a commitment. But if you can come, you can set up whatever you want, get rid of whatever price you want.
I'm
that could
down
be
low
even,
if you want to
know,
do it.
Gabe,
I'm
hold on,
down.
Gabe.
Joe.
So, so if somebody's interested, how would we get in contact with
There
you?
you
What are the
go.
details?
Great. So just reach out to me on Instagram or, you can call the store and just let me know what you want to do. If you're interested in doing it, like I said, I prefer $30 just for a commitment, but you'll get it back day of.
What's the store, Gabe?
It's Metatron Homegrown. This either Orange or Meriden. I'm in Orange today. You can call me down here. You can reach on me on Instagram. That's where I've been taking most of the information from everybody. You come down to the store and see me if you're in Orange. And I'm here all day today. And you could see that we have the big venue in the back, the big area, and it can fit about 10 vendors.
And what's your name on IG? Just to be clear, is it at Metatron?
It's at Metatron Homegrown.
Okay, at go. Metatron Homegrown.
You got some equipment, Ralph?
Hey, chill. Not on here.
Nah.
If you wanted to bring equipment and trade too, it's just
that's what I mean. Yeah, definitely interested into and Lou, man, if you're down there, bring them lights.
There we go. Let's make a deal.
Yeah.
It's fun because this is the community that Gabe's has really been able to build over the last couple of years. And it's such a mix of people, you know what I mean? And it's such a mix of people, which is really cool. And so many different levels of knowledge in the space. And it's not like, you're talking, everybody's talking, it's not like, oh, I'm doing, 17 lights and 30. And that gets intimidating sometimes when you start having those conversations. Right. I'm like, I grow 6 plants and I'm happy with my 6 plants in my little 5x5 tent. And I'm happy, you know what I mean? Because when you're doing it as a hobby, and I take it from the guy who has taken a hobby to a lifelong career. All of us at this table right now, this is what we kind of do in our respective spaces. At one time, it was a hobby.
Yeah.
And then it became something we did on the side. And then something that we got to do a little bit more that subsidized our life or our joy or whatever. And then it turned into a full-time day job where you're like, I still like this. It's fun. But there's like a whole nother side of it that's just not fun, like the business side of it.
Let's all be real. Let's all be real.
Yeah,
we all got into it because we loved weed and it was fun. But let's all be. We've all, in our various aspects, have run into difficulties with regulations and the state. They just don't want to let us do things the way we want.
And I even will digress a little bit further back. Nobody likes doing taxes.
No, no, that's a real thing. That's a very real thing.
You're like, man, I need help, and you're like, this has got nothing to do with the other side of it, but taxes got to get done.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. That's the other side that actually drives a lot of people out of the industry is the whole business part of it. I know many people, John Watkins being one, good friend of ours, disgusted with the industry just because he loved the plant, but he got in too deep into the industry and it was like, I can't deal with this anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you understand that, Lou, too.
Musicians, artists, people all the time. And you start going, wow, you get the artists that
that's
sell any of their stuff. They just use a broker or somebody else. They're like, you guys got to handle this. I can't do this part of it. It breaks their artistic creativity,
That's why so many growers don't want to deal with the industry,
Yep. Yeah. I think another benefit, schedule or reschedule also means that financing and banking becomes a little bit more lax, right? So for people who are in the industry, man, it's going to be interesting to get a small loan for this industry. So I'd like to see what that looks like in the next few years as well.
Yeah. So, all right, guys, we're almost out of time. Gabe, this Saturday,
that's
right. At Metatron Homegrown, come down. Let's go all hang out and have a good time.
Yeah.
You're going to have, I'm sure, some food and drink and fun stuff there, right? Yep.
We'll have donuts for the morning, pizza for the afternoon. We're going 11 to 4:20. Come on down. There's no pressure. It doesn't cost anything. It's free. It's just getting the community together, especially in the winter, and just keep us informed. Try to keep everybody
keep us together. Keep us together. Yeah, we always have good discussions and stuff like that up there. And Ralph, how do we reach you? What's going on? Tell us the best way to reach you if we want to.
Yeah, man. So basementghost.com. It's my website. It's where you can reach me. I'm doing a lot of stuff with AI and AI services. helping people use AI to 10x whatever they're doing. So people can reach me on my website, man. And obviously pushing the plant and getting people free is always my agenda, right? Like as we deschedule, I think folks need to get out for this stuff. So while we're all having fun, there are people who are still in jail for weed, which is unfortunate. So
Yeah, this is true. This is true.
yes,
We're always trying to work towards that. Very
that's right.
good, Rob. Now, how's things going in Waterbury? Are you still doing that, the People's Place, or?
Yeah, it's we're still, servicing, helping folks who are grassroots nonprofit people who are just looking to get out there. But again, Joe, thank you for having me on here, man. I always
I'm gonna have you
appreciate.
on more often. I like to.
Absolutely. And
Yeah,
Gabe, it's nice meeting you. I'll hopefully see you on Saturday.
Yeah,
yeah.
that'd be great. Come by, bud. I'd love to chat.
All right,
Absolutely.
everybody. Gabe, thank you so much for
Thank you.
coming. That's at Metatron Homegrown. We'll see you Saturday. Raphael, always a pleasure. Uncle Lou, thank you so much.
Always
Ooh.
stay happy and healthy, my friends. Have a great
Everybody,
time.
we love you, man. Follow me at Joe the Weed Guy at Greenhaven Media or Cannabis Corner Radio. We love you. Thank you so much. We will see you next week.